Not gonna work? It's acting all funny. Welcome, folks. Thanks for tuning in. David here doing From Pain to Power. My story of transformation as well as Anya's. Thank you so much for showing up. I've got a little bit of tech to deal with here to get started. Supposed to have Anya on here. I guess Anya, you could request to join. And trying to keep it, there you are. Can you request to join, Anya? Maybe that's what you need to do to bring you on camera. Says Patricia Bay is watching, love them on camera. Thanks for coming. And Alicia Kopp, bring them on camera. But it's not saying Anya Grace wants to be on camera. Bring you on camera. There it is. It's supposed to be automatic. So no look at plus. Okay, thank you guys for showing up. We're adding Anya. This should be viewable by me.
Yay!
Yes! We did it. Thank you, Anya, so much for showing up here with me.
Yes.
Oh, that took a minute.
We did it.
Rotate my camera twice. That's not the one. I don't know how to see comments coming in, but that's how it is. All right, so. All right, tech stuff, always fun. Not really. So we're here today. David Schlussel, this is Anya Grace, and we're here to talk about this journey of transformation that we've been on. And we just want to, there was this, I was at a little party at Anya's house, and they had this beautiful moment where they invited us all to share their superpowers. And I said, you know, I'm great at helping people heal their shame. And someone there later said, so I imagine you've had some shame that had you feel like you can do that, right? You must have worked through what happened. I told them about this car accident I was in where I took someone's life. And they said, oh, just like Anya. I was like, what? So went in and tried to find an appropriate time to get Anya's attention and say, hey, we've got this thing in common. And because part of my healing process had to do with the breath work that Anya leads, I was like, hey, maybe we should do something together. So here we are doing things together. And that's my story of how we met. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, that's our story. Yeah, it was really beautiful to, receive your share when you came up to me and just saying, hey, we've experienced the same thing. And I didn't know what you were talking about, to be honest. I was like on the edge of my seat, and then to learn what we share, and I instantly felt connected and bonded in a really deep way. And so it felt it's been so beautiful to get to know you and to learn more about your story, which I'm, really looking forward to hearing more about today. And and
I'll say that that's about my experience, actually, of every time I've talked to someone who shares this, this accidental death experience, it's like there's this instant like, oh my God, whoa, you too. So yeah, so what we wanted to do here today was share our stories and talk about our healing paths and and how we, yeah, how we want to connect with people like us. And should I just go right into my story? Is there anything else here, Anya?
Yeah, well, I also want to just share that you are an incredible yoga teacher and the work that you do to help others along their healing path. And I know you'll probably talk about that later, but
Yeah,
just highlight your gifts that you share with the world. So,
yeah, thank you.
yeah.
No, reciprocate. I got to do a breathwork experience with you. It was so moving and
Mm.
deep and nourishing for me. So grateful for you and who you are in the world. I'm glad we're here. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got that little fluster of excitement out of the way. Um, so, God, 1988, 30 something years ago, uh, just graduated high school, and my dad was working for Ford Motor Company. We lived in the Michigan suburbs, and he had this loaner car, a red convertible Mustang with a huge engine in it. I was like, "Hey, Dad, can I take it out?" Yeah, he's like, "Sure." So I went out there, picked up some friends, and we're cruising around. And I was like, "Yeah, let's see what this thing can do." And I hit the gas, and it was a fast car. It went really fast. So I was driving around a suburb, and there was another car coming the other direction, and they were swinging wide to pull into their driveway. And I just hit them front left to front left, going over 60 miles an hour. It goes 0 to 60 in, you know, 8 seconds or something like that. And I was just like, blam. And the memory's really patchy around then. I just have this memory of seeing the car and being like, and then my next memory after that, I was out of the car sitting in the grass with Kristen, who had been sitting in the front seat, and she was just going, "Oh, Julie, Julie, Julie," and I was like, "Huh?" Apparently, I didn't know this at the time, but Julie was unconscious. She had, as I piece it together, like I remember she couldn't find the seatbelt, and I was like looking back to help her find the seatbelt. So she was kind of like standing up, looking for it, like where? How does this? When I hit, and so she flew forward and hit her head on like, a convertible doesn't have a roof, just on this reinforced steel beam, and split her head open and knocked her unconscious. Um, in the car I hit, there's an elderly couple in it, and she didn't make it through the day. He lived a few months longer. And I went from this like cocky, like captain of the swim and water polo teams, going to the University of Michigan, like whole life ahead of me, to like, oh, I suck. I am just the worst thing that ever happened in this world. How could I do this? And just, yeah, just the dread and the guilt and the shame that I went through, feeling that and living through that, was devastating. There's a story of like my dad tells me. He tells me that when he went to the emergency room, he was surprised that like in triage they put me in first in front of Julie, because they thought they had seen some bleeding my brain. So he thought I was going to die, apparently. And he told me a story of like he was doing the laundry while I was in the hospital, and he was like, maybe I should just be throwing his clothes out. Right? He just felt that grief there. So I'm lying there coming in and out of consciousness in the hospital, and one of the first saving graces that I had was one of the couple's daughter. She came and visited me in the hospital room. Never got her name, but she said, "Hey, look, you're young. You've got your whole life ahead of you. They were old. Like we knew something was going to happen to them sooner or later. Like, please don't let this ruin your life. Like, just move on, go forward." And like that really helped a lot. And so I kind of picked myself up and like, okay, well, now what? And I kind of finished out my summer at a summer job, like waiting tables, and I was on a swim team. And then flash forward to later in freshman year, I was walking around in the dorm, and I saw this new friend who was a mutual friend of Julie's boyfriend. So Tim, who I'd gone to elementary school with, like a mutual friend said, "Hey, Schlossel, I heard you killed someone. Don't even care." I'm like, "Whoa, who would have told you that?" Like I was like, "People think I don't care.
Mm.
I gotta," and that's it's just like this other wave of shame, like because I like to think of there's this distinction between guilt and shame, where guilt is like, oh, I feel bad about something I did, and shame is like, I'm a bad person because of something I did. It wasn't just a mistake, but it's like a blemish on the validity of my existence. Like I shouldn't even. So I had kind of shifted thanks to my angel, like the daughter. I'd been in guilt more than shame, and then when I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm a bad person. I need to like I need I gotta fix something. Something's broken. I don't know. I don't know there's no conscious thought around it, just but I had to not forgive myself. That was I think that's what my 17-year-old mind did. Is like I have to not forgive myself.
Mm.
I have to not forgive myself. I have to carry this as for the rest of my life. I have to make sure everyone knows that I care by feeling terrible. So I gave that to myself. Um, So I started drinking. I drank a lot. And there's college. There was like all these fraternities out there. They were just giving out free beer almost every day. So I just, yeah, I did that a lot. And then, I got sick at a friend's apartment. They're like, you gotta watch your drinking, David. So, so I stopped. And I just, kind of went through the motions of school for a few years and got a degree in economics, which I didn't really care about, but I figured like it's gonna move me to business school, and then I'll get a job, and I'll be a productive member of society, etc. Um, at some point, I discovered yoga. I'd gone to a girlfriend at the time had taken me to a class, and in yoga, you have to sort of confront all the parts of yourselves that you're not comfortable with, and yeah, I just started. It's a deeply healing practice. It looks like that exercise, but it's a deeply healing practice for all this. The body is sort of the subconscious, as it turns out. So do all this healing work, and then I went to this workshop that I hinted at earlier, where we started with some breath work, and then we all each got some attention on our stories, and a lot shifted that day. And then a month later, they were repeating the workshop, and I took a break just because I was just I decided, oh sorry, and so I went and supported that workshop as an assist, as like a they called them the source team. So we just sit there silently, like bringing people water and just doing what needed to be done to make the workshop work. And, I took a break for one of the circles, is what they called it. And I came back. So I missed someone's circle. And I came back and they got to protect their anonymity because of the confidentiality rules, but they were just sobbing so hard. And I heard them say, no one even talks to me anymore. Like, and I just realized like I'd lost all my friends almost. I felt like I don't know if it was them. Welcome, whoever just joined. Like, but I realized that like I don't know if it was them or probably a lot of me. Like I didn't feel okay being with them. Like anyone who knew me then, I was just sort of distancing myself from. And I was like, oh, so I consoled this person for a while, and then I let them be, and I went out, and I felt my knees and started just crying so hard as I just emoted all this stuff that I'd been holding back for, it's probably 20 years at that point that I've been holding on to this. And yeah, it was amazing. And I was held and I was witnessed and I was loved. And so in the source team, we gathered together and was like, what happened there? Like, and so this big cuddle puddle back before COVID, right? This big cuddle puddle of people just holding me as I told my story and sobbed. And I was just held so immaculately, sharing this thing that I thought made me a bad person and being loved anyways was just so deeply moving and restorative for me. And it just cracked me open at a different level. And there's this thing I realized, like, when everyone made a mistake they felt bad about, I caught myself saying stuff like, oh, it's not like you killed anyone. And I didn't realize like I was talking about me, and I was comparing their wrongdoing to mine. I know that's sort of a phrase people say, but that the weight of that hit me. And I just felt so relieved. And there's still, lots of more yoga practice. And I did a grief ritual at one point where she shared, like, I asked her, like, how do I deal with this? I've done a few like grief rituals and other. For a while I was planting a tree every year on the anniversary. My yoga teacher Kachi had suggested I do that, and she said, "Don't you don't have to do it forever, but just like decide like for a certain number of years, you'll sort of know when you're done." So I put that in the past. I planted this big old fig tree in a friend's garden, and let that be the last one. But yeah, the grief ritual I asked her about, I was like, how do I forgive myself? And she said, well, in my culture, she's African, Sabon Fusome. She said, my culture, we don't think of it as accidents. There's like an exchange. Like they gave you their life. They wanted you to do something good with it. It's time. And I think as a Star Wars fan, I realized there's that moment in the first one, the New Hope with the Luke and all that, like where Obi-Wan lowers his lightsaber and Darth Vader takes him out, but he did that to give Luke his power. And it was just like, oh, and if part of me thinks that's a little palliative, and I don't know whether that happened, but that gave me some solace as well. Just like, who knows what this mystery is? But yeah, that was a lot. So, oh, I skipped a few things. So yeah, I had to do. Yeah, part of the legal aspect was because it was a Ford car, like, and they owned the car. Ford got sued for it, and I had like a lawsuit against me where I do 500 hours of community service in places where there were elderly people, like a nursing home and an emergency room. So I spent like, a good chunk of my summer after my freshman year just giving and giving and learning and being with the elderly and being in this like caretaking role, kind of like, you know, back at all the cockiness that had driven me into this thing. Um, Anything else I wanted to do here? Checking my notes. Yeah. So yeah, the big things that helped me through were my yoga practice and like doing like facing it and sharing my story in a supportive group where I can be loved for it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's and like I said, breath work was part of that.
Yeah.
To just being fully with our emotional body and expressing it and being seen and loved was the healing I needed.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's my story. Anything else you wanted to hear or say? I haven't looked at the comments at all because they're so tiny. But thanks you guys for being here with us. Whoa.
David, I love it about like the yoga, like looks like exercise, but it's so much more than that. And we're tapping into the subconscious and deep healing that can happen from that place.
Yeah,
And the part that believes like, oh, I'm not allowed to forgive myself now. That's that's what I'm carrying with me. That's my, you know, my yeah, that's what I have to carry with me now is that I'm going to carry the weight of this, the that I will not be able to enjoy and really live the fullness of my life because they didn't get to live the fullness of theirs and like
yeah.
how that yeah
Got
got
this.
woven into the belief. Yeah.
I've got this karmic debt that I need to pay off. I just have
Right.
to
Yeah.
give. I can't receive.
Yeah.
You know, one part of the magic of it, uh, of since then, since I've done so much of this, is as a coach, uh, three people, without knowing this in my story, shared with me over the past 10 years or since 2008 that I've been coaching 14 years, like if I'm doing my math right, have come to me and just that turned out to be part of their story too. So it's like there's this like, oh, I'm supposed to be helping people with this. And I was like, but part of me was like, but to do that, I would have to let the world know that that happened to me, that I had to like break through this. The shame just wants to hide, right? The shame wants us to hide. So I have to like unhide.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So here I
And
am. Hi,
that's
world. I'm
five.
admitting it.
That's
Coming
it.
out of the closet. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, David. So inspiring and just everything that you went through and your process and the bravery of just leaning in and sharing it. Really, really grateful for you and the healing work that you've done in yourself so that you can then create those spaces for others. And yeah, I'm really honoring that and celebrating that in you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you are you feeling ready to share your
Yeah.
journey, Anya?
Yeah. So I wanted to see, did anyone have any questions about David's story or wanted to leave? I can't see the chat either. I'm like a Facebook Live newbie, so
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It's supposed to be shown alive.
yeah. Well, I'm happy to dive in and like, so my healing art began in 2005. I was 18 at the time and just graduated. I mean, we're basically still in high school. I just graduated high school. but kind of like in between high school, college. And it had rained earlier that day. We're driving to a Halloween party at night and all dressed up. Me and my four best friends, or three best friends, there's four of us together in the car, all dressed up in our Halloween costumes and like dressed as a bumblebee and driving along the freeway. This is back when like smartphones didn't exist, if anyone can remember those times. So we're using like disposable cameras, or like you go out with your phone and your camera. So we're like taking pictures. They're taking pictures in the back seat. I'm driving this dark road. It's kind of road's wet. It's been raining, and I turn over my shoulder to smile for the camera, and all of a sudden I felt like gravel underneath the car, and I turned my head back around, and I'm just staring straight at a guardrail. And so, of course, my instinct is to just veer away from it. And the car just spun, and the back side of the car slammed straight into the guardrail, and the guardrail pierced through the back of the car. And I'll never forget the sound of like metal twisting, and everything went in slow motion. It was the most wild experience. And then I just remember getting out of the car, and the first thought in my head was, we're not going to Chico anymore. Like, that's where we were driving. We're not going to this party. And part of me was like praying, like, oh, please, like, let this be a nightmare. Let this be a horrible, horrible dream that I'm in that I just like need to wake up from. And like one of my friends gets out of the car, the other one gets out of the car, and Rachel, our friend that was still in the car, we kind of like walk to the back seat, and she just looked like she was sleeping. And the back seat was like over the top of the lower half of her body, and she looked perfectly like she was asleep, and she maybe had a concussion and just needed to be woken up. And I remember all the traffic slowing down, and all of a sudden this man appears, and he's like, he's wearing normal clothes, but he's like, hey, I'm a paramedic and I'm just off duty, but I just happen to be driving right behind you. And so he starts doing CPR, and I'm just in this state of just complete disbelief and shock. And I see him, giving CPR, and then I go over to hold her hand. I'm like, Rachel, like squeeze my hand, like if you're okay, like just squeeze my hand. And she doesn't squeeze my hand, and he's doing CPR, and then finally he stops, and he just starts shaking his head. And I just remember at that moment I snapped, and I just started screaming at him, like, you are not going to tell me that my best friend is dead. You are not going to tell me that. I just remember screaming over and over. And, then the ambulance comes, the police come, and it's this whole scene. And I remember being so angry because I wasn't drunk. I wasn't under the influence, but they were breathalyzing me and trying to give me all this attention. And I'm like, I don't need your attention right now. Um, and then, fast forward and wake up in the hospital. And I remember if I my eyes closed long enough that I didn't open my eyes, like maybe it was still a dream, maybe it was still a horrible, horrible nightmare that I would wake up from. And so I just kept my eyes closed until my dad entered the room, and I heard him say, Rachel died. And that's when I opened my eyes and just started sobbing. And I remember a hospital docent came in the room, and she kneeled down next to me, like similar to, sounds like you had someone that had come in for you too.
Yeah.
And then a lot of things, it was just a blur. But the one thing she said that stuck with me was, Rachel has a door for you. When you walk through it, your whole life is going to change, and your whole life will be transformed. And, looking back, she was, but in the moment, I was so just unwilling to accept the reality that I just wanted to punch her in the face. And and then when I eventually I had a catheter and I breast all these things that I was like, I don't need any of these things. So I end up leaving the hospital room to go home with my parents and open the door and I look down the hallway and 15 of all of our best friends are just lined up down the hallway waiting to embrace me with their love. And
Mm,
all that I could feel was shame,
mm,
shame, shame. The attention was painful. The acknowledgement was everything incredibly painful. And I just could not receive it. And it continued that way. So I just went into this spiral of shame, questioning whether I should still be living or not. And then, going to college soon after. And like you said, David, they're just passing out beer on a street corner.
yeah.
And so I used a lot of alcohol to self-cope, to numb, to tell myself like, oh, I think I'm okay with all of this self-coping and self-numbing. Like, oh, sure, I'm fine. Everything's great. I would just put on a happy face and, the past is in the past and Rachel's in heaven and, I'm good. And but really, underneath was just this incredible amount of self loathing, anxiety, depression, and this like volatility where I would burst into these fits of rage that usually was, you know, projected at my partner at the time or my close friends or particularly my mom and dad. So people closest to us. And that continued for about 10 years. And it wasn't until I was backpacking in Thailand and barefoot, broke, backpacker, happy as can be in my like elephant pants, just, free spirit, living in the jungles with the elephants. And I met a friend along the way and he invited me to a workshop and I didn't even know what it was. He's like, it's gonna be 3 days, it's gonna be great. Like he was really selling it to me but not really with any details or specifics. And I was like, sure, whatever, like sounds great. And breath work happened to be one of the primary components of that experience. And I had for so long had been pushing down, I had locked it in a little box all of that the black hole of despair that I was like, I'm done with this. And I locked it away. As I was breathing, I remember there was this like purple and pink light that just permeated into my being. And for the first time in since the accident, I felt the deep safety to start to be able to feel again and that it was okay that I was down, some dark night of the soul that I would never return from and that it was okay to start feeling. And as I started feeling, the compassion, this like sense of love started pouring in through my body and just tears streaming down my face. And I left that experience so inspired and just like this light switch had turned on and there was hope again. And so I just continued following that path of where can I find breath work. At the time this was 2015, there wasn't a ton of breath work available. It was really hard to find. And so I ended up going out of the country to Mexico and to El Salvador with a teacher, Genevieve Hart, who has trained with Dr. Judith Kravitz, who's the founder of transformational breathwork, which is the modality that I teach. And I just continued to practice and immerse myself in the breathwork, in my body, in my emotions, to where I'm able to get to a point where I felt like one, I could say I killed my best friend and still love myself. To say that out loud, still love myself and not love myself in spite of it, but love myself even more because of what I went through.
Mm,
That pain and the suffering and all of that darkness that I could transmute into some of my greatest gifts, that could actually grow my heart even bigger to hold more of life, to hold more of myself, to hold more of other people, and then I could become a more heart forward, compassionate, loving
mm,
person. And and all of that was able to come through the breath work, and that's what inspired me to share with others. I was like, this is too good not to share. This must be shared with other people. And and just like you said, yoga looks like exercise, but really it's like this much deeper spiritual, emotional, physical healing process. And breath work looks like breathing, but it's so much more than that. And and so I'm just so I feel so honored to be able to be in a place where I feel so resourced
mm,
and able to share, the gift of compassion and of love, to bring that to others that are carrying deep shame, because shame simply can't survive in the light of love, in the light of compassion. And so that's why we're so excited to create a space for others who have been through a similar experience, where we can shine a light on the shame, where we can share our stories, where we can be held, be seen, we can move through the steps in our bodies, we can reconnect to joy and creativity. And
mm,
so just so honored and really thankful to that our paths have crossed, and
mm.
then we can, merge together to support and uplift more humans, more beautiful souls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
create that space. Oh gosh, yeah, your story just rips tears from my eyes every time I hear it. Like, it's just, oh, and thanks for the work you've done. It's yeah. Oh, and mm, it's just that that permission to feel again was what landed the most.
Mm.
Like there's something with breathing, like in that you're such deep breathing in the style breath work you lead, and it's like most people I think are just barely breathing.
Yeah.
It's like because to take a full breath, you'd have to open up your body and feel the things that you've been like. I think about from the physical, like stretching part. It's like where the places that we cringe when you think about your past, like what makes you cringe, like you don't breathe in that part. You can get enough air without breathing fully, but
Right.
when you start doing this, you just have to feel all of it, and it's just and it's amazing because especially well either modality like you it's non-verbal, it's non-conceptual. You're just feeling the energetic clenching that you've been doing, and you have to release it to breathe deeper. You have to release it to get your leg behind your head or whatever. Like, you just have to you have to let go of the tension, and the emotions that were stuck there come to the surface, and then they can leave, and then you can be free, actually feel what you've been trying so hard to be cool about. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I think the common narrative is, time heals all wounds, just let
yeah,
enough time pass and
yeah,
be good. And, in my experience and have what I believe to be true is that, time doesn't inherently heal all wounds, that when left untouched, they actually calcify. And and so it's really this like conscious reconnection to like you're saying, that the parts, that tension, and that bringing that breath, bringing movement, opening into the subconscious so that we can liberate that, those stories, the energy, the yeah, the ache, and to transmute it, to transform it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember saying, "Come on, it happened a long time ago. Get over it." I'm like, "You don't fucking get it." Like, I'm sorry, you don't understand. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm really hoping that this gets shared widely because the people that I'm betting a lot of people know someone like a lot of people know me and didn't know this about me, right? A lot of people know you and don't know this about you. Like
Right.
everyone who sees this might know someone that they don't even know has holds this responsibility for accidental death. Um, and I did so I'm hoping you'll share this wide. I'm hoping that these people can find some refuge just hearing us share our stories openly and not hide it, and that we're putting together a multi-day event to to help hold space for us to gather and share with people who like so many of the clients I talked about. Like they're like, oh, I feel understood. I feel like you get me in a way that no one else can. Like to have a field of that and to do some breath work, to do some yoga practice, and to share our stories is what Anya and I are inspired to do here going forward.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'll put so if you're watching and this is an experience that you've had that's similar, you've been, responsible for an accidental death, or you know somebody who has, share this with them. And we're going to put a link, it's a link we'll put in the chat, and it's just a short survey for you to fill out if you are someone who shares a similar story to David and I. And we'd love to learn more about your experience, where you're at, because as David said, we want to support you and create a really beautiful container for that healing and that reconnection of our innate power, um, yeah, to happen. So I'll put that in the, let's see. Well, since I'm on my phone, actually, we'll put it in the chat so it'll be there, um, at some point, and then we'll reach out. And again, yeah, if you know someone who shares similar story, please share this with them. And if that person is you, we'd love to hear from you and support you.
yeah.
Yeah, anything else you want to share, David?
Um, yeah. As always, see see if you took any more notes of what I wanted to share. But yeah, but it's just again, it's super moving hearing your story, and I'm appreciating Grace with which you share such a raw experience. I feel like I trip over my tongue a lot. It's like, ah. But yeah, testament to the work you've done. Um,
I
yeah,
saw David. It's like celebrate you.
yeah. But yeah, I guess that's all we needed to do today. So please share this out there. If you feel moved at all by what you watched, just share it, and you never know who might need to see it.
Yeah.
You know, I posted my story and had a few people come out of the woodwork. And I was like, oh, interesting. So yeah, I have a yeah my website yogilifecoach.com. There's I just posted a blog telling the story again, and called The Ballad of the Accidental Killer. You can also find it on Medium. And yeah, I'll put a link on my website at all as well for this for the Google form, yogilifecoach.com. Oh, it's a nice message here, Patricia. Oh, miscarrying for you. Another bereaved woman created similar feelings that require great healing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
David is one of the healers who helped me. Oh, love you, Patricia. Thank you both for sharing and teaching us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people hold this for abortions, and there's a lot of ways people can hold responsibility. Miscarrying is interesting. There's a lot of ways we can hold responsibility for death, and it can just weigh on us so heavily. So I hope you guys will reach out and get the support you need. It's vulnerable, but it turns out vulnerability feels good.
Yeah. Turns out joy is on the other side.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that's what I was resisting.
Yeah.
Like more love. Oh.
Yeah. I feel like there's like one pipeline for emotion. If we're not willing to feel the grief and the shame, we're not going to be able to feel the joy either.
Yeah.
You know.
Hallelujah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll put the in the chat. So if you want to follow out, we'll be in touch. And yeah, thank you so much, David. Such an honor and pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
And love.
Likewise. I'll talk to you soon, Anya. I'll talk to you soon. Trisha, thanks for that other comment too, because she said that to accept the things that are out of control. So just wanted to acknowledge that before we sign off. Blessings to everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Please do just share this link when it goes live, just so the right person can see it. It's a weird thing that happens. People just fall in. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks,
Take
everybody.
care.
Blessings.
Peace. Blessings.